Hello everybody and welcome to Performance on Wheels. My name is Austin, this is my dad Todd. We run the #1 Ford Maverick channel in all of YouTube. We have teamed up with Rough Country to install their 2-inch lift kit on this Ford Maverick, but don't worry. Shortly here we are going to show you how to thoroughly install each one of their 2-inch lift kits. Now, we did install their full-on suspension kit on this Ford Maverick. However, we do have another kit that Rough Country sent us that we are going to be doing a giveaway on.
Whoa.
Yep, so to enter it is entirely free. All you have to do is you hit like, you hit subscribe, turn on the notification bell because we're going to be announcing the winner via a video come early February.
Before Valentine's Day, I think is what we're going to do. So Valentine's Day 2024, we will announce that winner on or before Valentine's Day. And what you will be getting is the Spacer Lift, brand new, never installed Rough Country lift. This is a $200 value. You can get it right now on their website. If you cannot wait until February 14th for 119 bucks. They have it on sale right now, so that's pretty awesome. But hang on, there's more to it than just subscribing and the notification bell. We're making a bit of a game out of this. You actually have to go down into the description of this video, click the link to our Audi R8 video, and if you watch the intro, which it's not very long, and down in the comments, type the 0 to 60 time along with Rough Country. That is how you will be entered to win this Rough Country Spacer Lift Kit. And if you continue watching this video, you'll also learn how to install it.
Yes, the 0 to 60 time of the Audi R8 and the word Rough Country in our Audi R8 video. Like, subscribe, notification bell. Good luck to everybody who enters. Now let's install this lift kit.
We will ship this lift kit to you free of charge, which is a $200 value. But if you can't wait until February 14th on Rough Country's website, not only can you get this Spacer Lift Kit for $119 currently, but you can also get some amazing swag like Austin and I will be wearing in today's video. Check out Rough Country's website. That is also in the description below. Now, let's start installing some lifts.
So what we have in front of us is Rough Country's full-on lift kit. We are swapping out the struts, we are swapping out the McPherson shocks, swapping out the rear springs to do a legit 2-inch lift kit with a full-on, basically suspension swap. And what we have next to us here is Rough Country's other offering, which is a little bit more affordable way to get to the exact same outcome. Now what we have here is Rough Country's 2-inch Spacer Lift Kit. So you can see the difference in what you are ordering here. This is their full-on swap on the suspension, and this here is their Spacer Kit. So we just go ahead and throw these on to the shocks in the rear, or the springs in the rear. They basically just kind of sit on here like so. We'll take it apart and show you how it all works. And then we have the exact same design for the front that basically just sits right on top of the front McPherson strut. So we're going to take that off and show you how both of these kits work and get to installing them.
We're obviously cheating a little bit by doing this on a lift, a 2-post lift so that suspension can hang. Easy access to everything. This is obviously a job you could do in your driveway from just a jack and jack stands. Let's see how long we take. Not doing this before. We're starting at 6:30 p.m. Let's see how this goes. We do have some very nice installation instructions provided by Rough Country. If we go into focus there, they are actually easier to read.
If you guys are noticing while we are installing the lift kit on this Maverick that it has 2 exhaust tips under it, that's because in a previous video we actually installed MRT's catback exhaust system. So be sure to check out our video installing that exhaust. It's up in the corner right now.
Your first step is to remove that rear sway bar link using a T40 as well as a
18mm.
And your second step is removing that lower shock bolt, which is that second one in right there, which is obviously connecting the shock.
With an 18mm on the other side and a 15 on this side, got to remove this bottom shock bolt.
Moving on to our next step, we are going to loosen but not remove that upper control arm bolt.
Step is what I just did right here, is loosening the rear trailing arm bolt, which is right at the knuckle. Next step is removing the lower control arm bolt entirely to drop down that lower control arm to take out the rear spring. We're having trouble getting this one on camera, but there's two 15mm bolts on the front of the trailing arms. If you look straight up, there's two 15mm bolts. We're going to remove those entirely, and part of the reason for that is we're going to be installing a spacer on there, but in our case, we actually need to take it out because the hub is sitting a little bit cockeyed in the control arm here. So once we take all the weight off of this, it should allow us to drop the rear control arm, take out the rear spring. Now I just go ahead and use some pressure here, pull out the rear spring. We've been using that 15 for a while. Now we're going to switch to an 18 to remove the shock. Take this guy out. Just going to pull forward a little bit and kind of let it just fall. It'll make its way out by gravity.
Out with the old, in with the new. Before we continue on with installing the full suspension lift kit, let's talk about the spacer kit real quick. So obviously we have Rough Country's spring, and we have the factory FX4 Ford Maverick spring right next to it. You can see there is a little height difference. But let's just go over here and talk about this real quick. So you can see I have Rough Country's spacer kit on the factory spring with Rough Country's spring for the suspension kit next to it. And once it is on that spacer, we have almost the exact same height, which is kind of fun, right?
It's kind of cool that we have two different ways at two different price points to get to basically the same outcome. Ultimately, if you are going to push this Maverick to the limits off-road, it is suggested that you, of course, swap out the entire suspension. But if you're doing this for aesthetics, for looks, you're not going to off-road it super often, this is a really great way to lift your Maverick for a pretty affordable price.
As Austin continues to take his sweet time with those trailing arm spacers, I found some real sense of accomplishment in removing the factory spring mount and replacing it with the Rough Country provided spring mount.
To get the new shocks ready to be installed, we have to swap over this top section as well as this cover onto our new Rough Country shocks here. So all we have to do, first step, is take a screwdriver. There's a little clip here on the back. Just go ahead and pry it up so we can get this cover off.
Make sure you're wearing eye protection.
Which gives us access to this little bolt right up top here. We just want to go ahead and take that guy off. That way we can take off this whole mount and transfer it onto our new Rough Country shock. Due to its somewhat poor design, the bolt for the rear shocks is actually inside of this little metal chamber here. So there's really no way to hold the nut while unscrewing the top pin to take off this metal bracket and this dust shield. So we are using a vise in our case to hold the metal shaft that goes inside of the shock to prevent it from spinning. That way we can take off these nuts. Make sure you don't do it like ridiculously tight so you don't ruin your rear shocks. That way, whether you want to sell them or use them again in the future, they're still totally fine, not even a mark on them, but that's ultimately what you got to do to take that off of your rear shocks. Just gonna go ahead and cut this guy, let our shock come on out right there, just like so. And we gotta take this little cap off. They did provide a new nut for us, it looks like. So all we gotta do here is take off that nut, put our old dust shield on, push it through, just like that. And then once again, we take this guy, put it right on the top, and then we take the new nut provided with us. We're gonna screw it down. And this guy, we're gonna impact down right away to make sure that it sits on there nice and snug. To prevent yourself from hurting your hands, just kind of step on it. This is my best way of going about it. Put your impact on there. Boom, just like so. Now we just take our shock, line it up with the bolt holes, just like that. And just obviously line the other side up with the bolt holes as well. And just like that. I'm gonna go ahead and we're just gonna leave it loose for now until we raise up this control arm here, and then we'll tighten everything down. Make sure you go through and double check all your bolts once you are done. Make sure you reconnect your sway bar, the upper control arm, that knuckle bolt for the trailing arm. Make sure you tighten everything down for the shocks here. Make sure you tighten everything down for the lower control arm, and we are all buckled up in the rear. Let's head to the front. We're gonna start by disconnecting everything up front here. I'm gonna start with the sway bar link, which is an 18. Right up on the brake line here, this guy connects to the bottom of the strut. It's an 8mm. Let's go ahead and take that guy off. Just like that. Then we're just gonna use a 21 to take off these two strut bolts. There's one.
Does he have a...
there's 2. And we're just gonna hammer those bolts out. Lots of memories here from lowering my other Maverick. All you have to do is there's a bunch of these little metal clips that sit like right here, and they sit right here. You just pull these metal clips out, and there's a 10mm bolt. You take that guy out, you can pry up this entire cowl, and there's one more 10mm bolt sitting right here. Once you take that out, you just pull this panel off, and it gives you access to all of the bolts right on the top of the strut. Just like that right there. So you pull that little guy off. As you can see, it's full access to the top of the strut. Now we just take off the strut bolts. I got a 13mm socket. All you gotta do is go to these 3 bolts and take them out. Just like that. They're pretty short.
As you can see here, there is a driver and passenger, just simply noted by your different tabs for mounting your different lines. All right, before we get the front completely put back together, let's talk through that spacer lift, as well as just comparing the rough country suspension to the OEM, the FX4 McPherson strut, right? So you can tell that like the body of the strut is much taller compared to the factory. That's where we're getting our lift. If my count is correct, it actually looks like there's one more coil on the rough country. Let's see if we can count together. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I think there's one more coil on the rough country, and it's in a shorter period. So now let's talk about that lifter spacer little feller guy right over here. This is the rough country spacer lift, is where my words that are very hard to articulate sometimes are going. So this is where things get a little hairy and where things get different in the install. So the suspension lift, you're pretty much done. Getting to this point is identical installation points, or identical installation instructions, but now from this point on is where things get different. This is where things get hairy, where you actually technically should have a spring compressor to compress this spring, take the top assembly off. That is then when the rough country spacer goes into place and you bolt it back together. So that's where you're getting that additional height up front on the rough country lift kit.
While I'm hanging out here, if you guys didn't notice, I don't have a strut holding up my hood. Also from our MRT video, they sent us these hood struts, and I have to admit, they're actually pretty handy. The only thing is it's slightly in my way based on where I'm working on the hood, but if I'd be working anywhere else, they'd honestly be pretty slick. I kind of like not having the big hood prop in the middle. Once you get your 3 top bolts tightened down on both sides, put those clips back on, the 2 little 10 mils on both sides, and that's it. You're done. Now just close your hood. Check out, again, those MRT hood struts. So nice.
I must say that the front install is easier than the back by a long shot. It's definitely a breeze. Replacing the front McPherson, everything lines up. All the brackets are right where they're supposed to be as far as realigning brake lines and sensors. Everything just snaps right in. Really is quite easy. Looks good too. Holy smokes! It's like a monster truck.
Welcome back from the garage. The lift kit is officially in. I've put about 500 miles on it since I officially installed it. Like you guys saw, it was a pretty easy process. You can do this in your garage. The front end probably took us a half an hour, 40 minutes.
Super easy.
Super, super, super easy. The back end was a little bit more challenging, but even then, about 45 to 50 minutes. Super easy. Rough Country provides fantastic instructions, and hopefully this video gave you enough confidence to go ahead and install the lift kit yourself.
I think you were pretty generous with your time there. Most people are not going to have a lift.
Very true.
To be working off of, so if you're doing one corner at a time, I'd put something on the smoker and just enjoy it for the day. Like, don't get stressed out like you got to do it NASCAR style.
Yeah.
Like, if you are any sort of do-it-yourselfer, I would feel confident with the quality instructions that Rough Country supplies that you will be able to do this on a Saturday type of deal.
Yeah, it's pretty easy, pretty awesome. So now let's talk about what it is like since I've been behind the wheel of this Maverick with the lift kit installed on it for a little bit of miles now. I have not put bigger wheels and tires yet on my Maverick because those are going to be coming soon. So I actually, right now, I want you guys to pick. I'm between 2 wheels and tires.
You better pick quick.
Yeah, I am between these gold 1552 Turbo Max. My dad thinks they look a little bit too rally-ish, and I'm going for an off-road style. Or there's a set of these Vision Corrupts in satin bronze with like this cool dark gray lip. I'm a big fan of these two. Both of these I'm looking at are the Visions are a 17, the 52s are an 18. Let me know what you guys think, which will look better down in the comments below. Now, I have had the lift on the stock wheels and tires, and I must admit I was not expecting this at all, especially while we were installing the back end, with how much it took to basically get the spring back in there. I thought this was going to be a stiffer ride. However, it rides like a luxury car.
Yeah,
like
you have mentioned that.
Like I cannot believe how much it actually improved the Maverick's ride quality. Like, bumps are pretty much non-existent. You used to be able to feel every little crack in the road with the Maverick. It's not the most high-end or luxurious chassis, but this rough country suspension kit has taken all of that stuff out of the day-to-day driving and just makes it super refined and super comfortable. Big bumps are now what the little bumps used to feel like. So it's pretty awesome. I was not expecting it at all. Not only that, but we of course got some capability with that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what intrigues me and will intrigue most of you guys. Some of you guys will be looking for like the spacer lift kit for more of an appearance thing. Obviously, you'll be able to get a little more height out of there. The suspension kit just gives a little more durability over the spacer lift kit. And that's what we did and why we did that on Austin's Maverick here. We did it for things like those departure angles and the, what's the other angle on top of departure?
Approach.
Approach, yeah. If you're going to depart something, you first have to approach it, I'm pretty sure is how it works. And we just did some very simple things to show that difference on what isn't extreme terrain, but at the end of the day, the Maverick is a small truck. So if you have any inclination that you're going to be taking this either off-road, or perhaps you just live in a very hilly terrain area where your driveways are steep, or you're going out to your farm, or you go hunting and you got some steep driveways, like this makes that 2 inches makes a dramatic difference.
It does. The stock Ford Maverick is not even that much higher up than
this was on the FX4, let's remember.
It is, yeah. This is on the FX4. The stock Maverick is only about an inch or two taller than just your standard curb, if that shows you just how low the stock Maverick sits. Adding that 2 inches makes a very big difference. And then, of course, like I said, we're going to be putting some larger wheels and tires on here, which will give us another couple of inches, which is actually going to make this Maverick a pretty capable little truck. So I'm really looking forward to that. We have a lot of other cool Maverick stuff on our channel. Lots of updates coming on this lift kit as we begin to push it off-road with lots of upgrades that are in store. We have some lighting stuff, some bed stuff, and a lot of videos we've done in the past. We also have that exhaust system that I brought up earlier. Thank you guys so much for tuning into the video today on the Rough Country lift kit. And thanks again to Rough Country for helping us out with this video. Don't forget to enter the giveaway, and we look forward to seeing you guys soon.